Don't click the hidden mode in Fortnite. I don't know who's going to read this, or if anyone will even believe me, but I need to put this somewhere. If you play Fortnite, especially if you play alone at night, you need to listen. There's something hidden in the game that isn't supposed to be there. I found it by accident, and I swear to you, it almost cost me my life. I'm not exaggerating. This isn't a joke or some made-up gamer myth. I was there. I saw what was inside. And if you've ever heard about the hidden mode, I'm begging you, don't try to find it. Don't click it. It started on a night just like any other. I was 13, and my parents were already asleep upstairs. The house was quiet, too quiet, except for the hum of my console and the faint whir of my fan. I had my headset on, the glowing blue light of the controller in my hands, and Fortnite's lobby screen shining across my dark room. That lobby music had become so normal to me I barely noticed it anymore. The routine was the same as always. I'd queue into a few matches, drop in tilted or pleasant, maybe run some solos until I felt tired enough to crash. School was the next morning, but I didn't care. Summer was just around the corner, and these late-night sessions felt like my own little secret world. But that night, things felt just slightly off. It wasn't something I could put into words right away. The game took longer than usual to load. The colors on the screen seemed darker, like the contrast had been turned up. Even the sound of the battle bus horn felt different, lower, stretched out, almost like it was echoing inside my head instead of my headphones. I should have taken that as a warning, but instead, I shrugged it off. Maybe it was lag. Maybe it was just me being tired. After a couple of matches, I was about to log off when I noticed something strange in the corner of the lobby screen. A new tab. It wasn't marked Battle Royale, Creative, or Save the World. It was just blank at first, like a black square. But when I moved the cursor over it, faint red letters glitched into view. Mode is 0.0.0. That's what it said. No description, no preview art. Just that. At first, I thought maybe it was some kind of developer glitch. I'd seen videos on YouTube about hidden menus before, people data mining unreleased content. But this wasn't like that. This didn't look like it belonged at all. The text flickered as if it wasn't meant to be stable. And then I noticed something else. When I hovered over it, my controller vibrated. Just a faint buzz, like the game was reacting to me being there. I should have backed out right then. But I didn't. I clicked it. The screen froze for a second, then cut to black. My first thought was, great, I crashed my console. But then I heard it, a low, distorted version of the battle bus horn. Longer this time. Deeper. It sounded like it was coming from the walls of my room instead of the game. The screen lit up again, but it wasn't the normal loading screen. Instead of the bright sky with the bus floating overhead, I was staring at a static-filled sky, grey and red like a storm at sunset. The battle bus wasn't cheerful blue anymore. It was blackened, charred, wires hanging loose like veins. It drifted through the clouds with no players on board. A message appeared on my screen in jagged white text, "Welcome to the real game." My hands froze on the controller. I thought maybe it was some edgy custom mode, like an early Halloween event or something. But then the text glitched again. "You can't leave until you win." The words crawled across the screen, letter by letter, almost too slow to read. My stomach dropped. I tried pressing the home button, the power button, anything, but nothing worked. The controller was dead in my hands. And then the screen pulled me in. I don't know how else to describe it. It wasn't like VR. It wasn't like watching through a screen. It was like the colors, the static, the darkness, everything reached out and wrapped around me, dragging me forward. My chest tightened, my ears rang, and before I could scream, my vision went completely white. When it cleared, I wasn't in my room anymore. I was standing in the middle of the map. At least it looked like the map. The grass was dull and grey, the sky was blood red, and the trees bent at impossible angles like they were alive. In the distance I could see the outline of Pleasant Park, but the houses were sagging, broken, like they'd been abandoned for years. The playground swings creaked, even though there was no wind. I looked down and realized I wasn't holding my controller anymore. I was holding a pickaxe. Not the default one either, but something heavier, jagged, with rusted edges. My skin wasn't mine either. It was my Fortnight skin, the one I'd been using all night. Only now it looked wrong. The colors were muted, the face expressionless, eyes blacked out like holes. And then I heard it, footsteps behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but there was no one there. Just the sound of crunching grass, moving closer, then stopping. That's when the voice spoke. Not through a mic, not through the headset. It was everywhere, vibrating in the air around me. Survive the levels, win the game, or stay here forever. The voice faded into the wind, leaving me alone in that broken world. My hands trembled around the pickaxe. My first instinct was to scream, but no sound came out. My throat felt tight, like the game itself was holding it shut. I turned back toward Pleasant Park, and for the first time, I noticed the windows of the houses weren't empty. Something was moving inside. And that's when I realized I wasn't the only one in the game. I thought maybe, if I stood perfectly still, whatever was in those houses would stay inside. Maybe this was some kind of horror-styled creative map, someone's creepy fan project. But then one of the front doors creaked open, slow and painful, like the hinges hadn't moved in years. What stepped out wasn't a player. It looked like one, like a default skin, but its movements were broken, too sharp, too fast. The head twitched at unnatural angles, snapping side to side like a broken puppet. Its eyes glowed pale white, and when its mouth opened, it was nothing but static spilling out, loud and jagged, like TV snow. I stumbled backward, clutching the pickaxe. My hands were slick with sweat. Then another door opened, and another. Within seconds, all of Pleasant Park was spilling out with these things. Avatars, dozens of them, shuffling and jerking, their faces glitching, arms twitching like they weren't attached right. Some crawled on the ground like spiders, others floated a few inches off the pavement. And every single one of them turned toward me. The voice returned, rattling through the sky. Level 1, survive. I didn't wait. I bolted down the cracked street, the sound of glitching footsteps exploding behind me. My lungs burned, my legs felt heavier than they ever had in real life, and the pickaxe thudded against my side with every stride. I spotted a chest glowing faintly at the edge of the soccer field. For once, I felt a flicker of relief. Maybe this worked like the real game. Maybe I could arm myself. I slid to my knees, clawed the lid open, and sure enough, there it was, a shotgun. But when I picked it up, it felt wrong. The metal was warm, pulsing faintly like it was alive. The barrel stretched longer than it should have, glitching in and out of focus. Still, when I pumped it, the sound echoed solid and heavy. The avatars screeched when they saw it. Static poured from their mouths in unison, like a broken choir. They charged. I fired. The blast was deafening, rattling my skull, but it worked. One of them exploded into pixels, collapsing into the ground like shattered glass. But the others didn't stop. They just got louder. I don't remember how long I fought. Minutes? Hours? Time didn't feel real in that place. All I know is I ran, I shot, I swung the pickaxe until my arms went numb. Every time I thought I cleared them, more crawled out of the ruined houses. The storm was closing in too, not the playful purple wall I was used to, but a swirling vortex of screaming shadows. Faces flickered in it, faces of kids, I swear, their mouths open like they were calling out for help. Finally, when my body was ready to collapse, a loud ding echoed across the sky. The remaining avatars froze in place, twitching, the static in their mouths cut off. Text burned into the clouds above me, level 1 complete. And then, just like that, they vanished. I dropped to my knees, gasping for breath. The shotgun dissolved into mist in my hands. For a moment, I thought it was over, that maybe I'd wake up now. But no. The world twisted. The ground beneath me cracked like glass, and I fell. When I hit solid ground again, I was in tilted towers, or what was left of it. The skyscrapers leaned at impossible angles, concrete splitting open to reveal jagged rebar like bones. Fires burned inside the windows, and the sky above was nothing but storm. It wasn't closing this time. It was already here, swirling endlessly, lightning snapping down in unnatural colors, red, green, violet. The voice returned. Level 2 escaped the storm. The wind howled through the streets, carrying the sound of laughter. Not fun laughter, mocking, cruel, echoing in every direction. I looked up and saw them, silhouettes of players, standing on rooftops. They weren't moving like the ones in Pleasant. They were watching me, waiting. I sprinted into the nearest building. Inside, the stairwell twisted upward in a spiral that never seemed to end. I climbed, 2 steps at a time, heart slamming in my chest. My ears rang with thunder and that horrible laughter. Halfway up, I heard the sound of footsteps following, heavy, metallic. I turned just in time to see something dragging itself around the corner. It wasn't a player. It was bigger. A warped skin, stretched out and melted together, like someone had fused 5 different avatars into one nightmare. Its arms dragged against the walls, leaving smears of static. Its head lolled side to side, 3 faces glitching over each other. It screeched and lunged. I fired blindly with a rifle I'd grabbed on the way in, bullets sparking against its body like they barely registered. It didn't even slow down. I threw the rifle and kept running, taking the stairs 2, 3, 4 at a time. The storm was breaking through the walls now, flooding the stairwell with shrieking voices. I could see hands pushing through the cracks in the concrete, clawing at the air. I burst out onto the rooftop, lungs on fire. The silhouettes I'd seen before were gone. Just me, the endless storm, and a single glowing rift floating in the air at the far edge of the building. I didn't think. I just ran. The monster's scream shook the rooftop behind me as it burst through the stairwell. My feet pounded against cracked cement. The storm screamed louder, closer, like it was pulling me back. I dove into the rift. When I landed, I was somewhere else, a place I'd never seen in Fortnight. The ground was flat, stretching on forever, littered with broken battle buses, dozens of them. Some crashed nose first into the ground, others dangling in mid-air like invisible strings were holding them. Wires sparked, balloons sagged and deflated. It felt like a graveyard, and at the center stood something massive. At first I thought it was the battle bus driver, but it wasn't. It was taller, bulkier, its body a writhing mess of glitched skins all stitched together. Its head was a monitor, glowing with the same red text I'd seen before. "You can't leave until you win." The voice thundered again, shaking the ground beneath me. Final level. My chest went cold. This was it, the last challenge. If I lost here, I wasn't coming back. And that's when the boss turned its monitor head toward me, and all the broken battle buses lit up at once, their horns blaring in unison like a funeral song. I raised my weapon, every nerve in my body screaming, and I knew I had to win. The air in that place was heavier than anywhere else on the map. Every breath felt like dragging glass into my lungs. The broken battle buses loomed over me like tombstones, their headlights flickering with sickly yellow light. The massive figure at the center, the boss, the thing that had replaced the battle bus driver, shifted its body with a sound like grinding metal, Its screen face blinked with the words, "You can't leave until you win." Then the letters scrambled, replaced by a countdown. 3, 2, 1. The ground shook as the fight began. The boss raised one massive glitching arm, and the sky lit up with neon cracks. Weapons rained down all around me. Shotguns, rifles, grenades, but none of them looked right. They were bent, jagged, some of them dripping black static like oil. I snatched up an assault rifle anyway. The boss roared, a blast of distortion so loud it rattled the buses and made my vision blur. It swung its arm down, smashing one of the floating battle buses into the ground like it was made of cardboard. Fire erupted, pieces of burning balloon fabric drifting across the battlefield. I fired into its chest, bullets sparking like they were hitting steel. The thing barely flinched. Suddenly, the air split open and figures began dropping from the sky. Players, or at least they used to be. Skins I recognized, but twisted. Their faces melted together, their arms too long, legs bending the wrong way. They landed in the dirt and immediately sprinted toward me, weapons in hand. The voice thundered again, vibrating through the ground. Final level, eliminate. I ran. I ducked behind a bus husk as the first wave fired at me, bullets sizzling with static as they tore chunks out of the metal. My rifle kicked against my shoulder as I fired back, shredding one of them into a spray of pixels, but 3 more took its place. The boss wasn't waiting either. It raised both arms now, and the storm itself bent inward, walls of black static rushing closer with each passing second. The faces in the storm were screaming louder, their hands pressing against the barrier like they wanted out. This wasn't just a fight, it was a cage. I sprinted from cover to cover, every gunshot echoing like thunder. My ears rang, my vision blurred. For the first time since I'd been pulled into this nightmare, I thought, I'm not going to win. I'm going to die here. Then I saw it. At the far edge of the arena, nestled between 2 half-buried buses, was a glowing chest, different from the others. This one was pure white light, humming softly, almost calm compared to the chaos around me. I ran for it. Bullets tore past me, one grazing my arm with a burst of pain that felt horribly real. My legs screamed with every step, but I didn't stop. I slid across the dirt, yanked the chest open, and inside was a single weapon, a rocket launcher. But not like the ones in the game. This one was cracked, its metal blackened, glowing veins of light running down its sides like it was alive. The second I touched it, the ground trembled, and the boss let out a roar that shook my bones. It knew. I spun, aimed, and fired. The rocket spiraled upward, leaving behind a trail of white fire, before smashing into the boss's chest. The explosion was blinding, the shockwave throwing me backward into the dirt. When my vision cleared, the boss was on its knees, screen face glitching wildly between words. Error, error, error. The storm shrieked, closing faster, lightning striking inches from where I lay. The twisted players were still charging, hundreds of them now, all screaming with static mouths. I scrambled to my feet, reloaded, and fired again. The rocket slammed into the boss's head. The monitor shattered, shards of red light spraying across the battlefield. The monster convulsed, arms flailing, crushing buses as it staggered. With one final, ear-splitting scream, its entire body exploded into pixels, dissolving into the storm. The players froze. One by one, they collapsed into dust. The storm stopped moving, its screaming voices fading into silence. For the first time since I'd been dragged here, the world was still, and then I saw it, floating above the battlefield. A rift, bright, golden, humming softly, the way out. I stumbled toward it, legs shaking, lungs burning. Every part of me wanted to collapse, but I couldn't stop. I reached the rift, looked up into its blinding light, and jumped. I woke up in my room. For a long moment I just lay there on the floor, controller beside me, Fortnight lobby music playing faintly from the TV. My sheets were twisted on the bed, the fan still humming. It was like nothing had happened, except my body was drenched in sweat. My throat was raw, my muscles ached like I'd actually been running, fighting. I laughed, a shaky, broken sound. It was over. I'd beaten it. I was home. But then I heard it. A faint sound, barely there, cutting through the hum of my fan. The horn of the battle bus. I froze. It wasn't coming from the TV. The console was still on the lobby screen, no matches running. The sound came again, louder this time. Outside, slowly, heart pounding, I turned to the window. Through the glass, in the darkness of my quiet suburban street, I saw it, a faint blue glow hovering above the houses. The outline of a balloon. The shadow of a bus floating silently in the night sky, and when I glanced back at my TV, my Fortnight skin, the one I'd used that night, wasn't standing still in the lobby anymore. It was waving at me. Don't click the hidden mode, don't go looking for it, because if you win, you don't come back alone.